First time in a few years that HPE Discover was in person. And I got to tell you, overall, I thought it was a very good event. And I look at events from two vectors. So first of all, did I learn something new about the company that gives me a different point of view about it? Check, and I'll talk about that later. And secondly, was it an efficient use of my analyst time? I mean, when you really think about it, Daniel, we get paid by the hour, right? And the only thing we can't duplicate is time. So efficiency and effectiveness is high. And I'll start off by giving the AR team and the comms leadership some kudos. Jenna Blatt and Randy did a great job putting this program together. But
don't forget Jen Temple, because she grinds with the team, even though she is the chief.
She did too. But where do I stop? Do I thank Antonio too?
Yes, I was going to do that. So no.
Okay, you're going to do that. So, but from an informational purposes, so there has been a little bit of a cloud of uncertainty about HP out there that I would say extends in the industry, but also in the investment community. Quite frankly, HPE strategy involves a lot of software and a lot of as a service. And if you look back 5 or 6 years ago at HPE software, it wasn't a very pretty look. So I totally understood the skepticism. We get closer in than others do. And I had been optimistic about it. And I have to tell you, HPE is a different company right now. I gave them credit for the strategy, but I couldn't give them credit for the execution. And the execution on GreenLake has been incredible. And it's funny, this isn't a fluke. HPE has been ahead of the curve on many different thought leadership ideas. The question was, how could they execute and benefit from it? I mean, they were the first ones talking about the hybrid cloud. They were the first ones really leaning into the edge, and they went all in on as a service with GreenLake. And here we are. They are racking up the customer count, which I think last time we looked was 65,000, which is absolutely incredible. But also, what's more impressive, or as impressive to me, is the amount of services. And it's funny, there are 70 GreenLake services out there, and there are so many you couldn't fit it on one slide. Kind of reminded me of kind of how AWS rolls out things, right? When they're trying to show a show of force, they put a ton of things on the slide so you can barely see them. And that's the point. And I have to give people like Flynn Malloy some credit on the marketing side for that. So from an announcement standpoint, 3 announcements stood out for me. First of all is data fabric. I've been talking about the challenges to multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, and that was the fact that you had to have a consistent data security, data and security and networking fabric. Otherwise, you can't very easily work with multiple clouds. Private cloud, and I won't talk a lot about that because that's the article that you wrote about, but basically your own VM container and bare metal that also connects with public cloud services. So great momentum here. And although it's kind of dangerous for an industry analyst to pick a leader in a certain space, I think the way to credibly do it is have a point in time. And I can definitively tell you, I believe that HPE is the leader right now in on-prem cloud-like services. But we're first inning in a 9-inning game, and companies like Dell Tech and Cisco and Lenovo are not resting at all, and they're racing right now to deliver as many as-a-service capabilities as they can.
Yeah, you hit a lot of good points there, Pat. And because there were so many products rolled out and services rolled out, I think it's better to kind of take a macro view on what happened. I mean, there were some cool things outside of GreenLake. The Ampere Proliant launch is interesting, going in on ARM, trying to be a bit of a leader, a bellwether there. Of course, not across all the industry, but across the OEM space. I asked Antonio a question in the analyst Q&A, and basically, to your point, it was about competition and where he's feeling pressure from. And it was interesting because I was expecting a very different answer than I got, because, effectively you mentioned Lenovo and Dell and Cisco Plus and many others that are coming into this space. But we'd be remiss to not give credit to the hyperscale players that are all building offerings to address the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud evolution. And of course, companies like HPE are both a partner, but also a somewhat a potential victim of their success. And Antonio's answer was basically, we listen to our customers. And whether that was just being smooth and not wanting to acknowledge that he feels pressure, which a good CEO probably would, but I got a sense of real self-esteem, that he truly believes that their transformation and migration and their service offerings are credible. I talked this week to the Register about kind of a comparative between Lenovo and HPE and what TruScale is doing versus GreenLake. And, I think the answer is in software. The answer is really in the fact that HPE has made mega investments in the GreenLake Central and in the whole control plane layer to offer its current customers the ability to have a cloud-like experience, really have that on-prem cloud-like experience. And they use the term, or Flynn, you mentioned Flynn, who's done a great job, that kind of bring the cloud to you mentality. Yeah. They're doing that. And so, as I look across, I'm basically the average competitor right now, and I haven't done this exact math, probably has somewhere between like 5 and 20 services that they're offering in their current private or on-prem cloud. GreenLake has 70. The portfolio looks more like an AWS or an Azure in terms of all the optionality that they're giving to customers. And there's a lot to like about that. This is the bet the company has made. And the one other thing I'll say is they don't have the fallback, which I think has served as a really great motivator. These other companies really all have these really significant pots of gold that they fall back on. And that doesn't mean they won't be successful. They probably will be. But HPE had no other option. From 2019, that timeline when Antonio initially announced that everything was going to move to as a service, that's been the focus of the company. If they don't succeed here, there's a risk the company doesn't succeed. That's great motivation for success.
Death is always an amazing motivator.
It's an amazing motivator, Pat. And Antonio, to your credit, and I hope you're listening, I know you do sometimes, and we've always enjoyed having you on the show. You did a deserved victory lap when you were able to say that you accomplished, mission accomplished. You should have held a banner up, would have been very presidential. But at the same time, the work starts here, because now you've got the 70 services. Now it's about getting adoption, gaining momentum, and growing, because as you grow the recurring revenue, the other revenues do slow a little bit in terms of those CapEx revenues. And, everybody wants growth. So great show, strong event, well put on by the team.